I just wanted to thank you guys for being here. Tim and Jeanette Wyatt with Wyatt Management here in Houston, Texas. They're a general contractor that have a lot of projects going on in the Houston area and all over Texas. Why don't y'all introduce yourselves real quick and just give us a brief background on how you guys got started in the industry?
Well, I'll start and want to thank you, Richard and Blue Book, for giving us this opportunity. Tim founded the business in 1998 in Minnesota, had clients including McDonald's, Arby's, Wendy's, Jiffy Lube, and a few others, and business did very well up until around '09, when everybody knows the economic crisis hit, construction, among other industries, all came to a standstill. Tim had been holding out for more business, so he held on to as many employees as he could, and then eventually it came down to just him, a couple soups, and his office manager. He then moved to Texas, where most of his work, ironically, was, and that's when we met. And he was telling me about how business had dried up and he was just trying to figure out how to keep it afloat. And I have a background in marketing and business development. I had worked for a woman entrepreneur out of grad school. I'd done marketing, branding. I'm happy to help out wherever I can. So the first thing I did was help create a new brand for him. And slowly business started to pick up. We incorporated the company in 2010 in Texas as a woman-owned company. In the last 5 years, grown significantly. We've branched out from retail and restaurant quick serve to doing retail strip centers. We're working with a number of real estate developers, which has really helped advance our business. And we've got dedicated teams now in Dallas and in serving the San Antonio and Austin market, as well as our Houston team.
Thank you for sharing that story. That's a pretty neat story of how you guys came together. What are some of the projects that you primarily specialize in? You mentioned retail strip centers. Is that still kind of your main niche?
Well, ironically, the bulk of our past, we worked on remodels and didn't do a lot of new construction up until about, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We kind of transitioned into doing more ground up work and new construction. We still do the major remodels, but it's not the lion's share of our work anymore, whereas it used to be.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your pre-qualification process and what takes, to get on your short list from a subcontractor standpoint.
Well, we have a basic application that they fill out. It would tell us what type of corporation they are, if they're a minority-owned business. We ask for references. We also ask for supplier references, which are probably more valuable to us than the references that they give us from clients that they work for. And then we ask to see a list of the jobs they've completed recently to make sure that the work they do is relevant to what we're going to be using them for. Another important thing is to know if they have their own employees or do they subcontract to smaller people. We do like to see their work. We'd like to go out and look at some of their projects,
right?
If possible.
And we also do check with their suppliers to make sure that they're on good payment terms.
Okay, I was going to ask you why it was interesting when Tim said that about the supplier reference, but that makes sense. You want to make sure they pay their bills.
Yeah.
And do
Exactly.
So they know that that they're going to show up and complete the work because they have the product to do it with, right?
Exactly.
So that's pretty important. So,
yeah.
Well, let me ask you, if there was two subcontractors that came in at the same price, what would make you choose one over the other?
Oh gosh, well, some of the same items. I think number one, if what size company they are and what type project we're working on, can they meet our schedule? Right now, we're struggling to get subcontractors to meet our schedule. The restaurant and retail business is really fast paced, and
right.
There's not a lot of room for errors, especially with the kind of weather we have in Texas. Mm-hmm. So that adds another dimension, and so that's a big part of what we look for. And again, we want to know if they have their own forces or are we going to be relying on them to sub it out to different crews. Because what happens is you might get their A crew or you might get their B or C crew,
right?
Depending on how busy they are. So that's important for us.
We also have to be cognizant of their capacity. So for example, we had one instance where we had a smaller, I think it was a plumber, and we had him on 2 jobs, and he just didn't have the workforce to be able to handle both jobs at the same time. So we're
Yeah.
really cognizant of making sure that they've got the ability to complete the work.
Okay, great. That's great
It's
information. Let me ask you, why do you guys rely on the Blue Book network to pre-qualify, the subcontractors that bid on your projects?
the 2 main reasons for us is we can pinpoint what areas they work in. And then also if they've taken the initiative to be in the Blue Book, then I think they're looking for support that you guys give. We find that the subcontractors we get on Blue Book are pretty reliable.
Okay.
I don't know what the process you use to pre-qualify them, but we find it helpful. We can plug in what regions they work in or what cities they work in, and eliminate a lot of legwork.
And
Right.
also being able to identify those with diversity certification, because
Okay.
we have some clients like Shell Oil and Chase Bank who require that we have a certain level of diverse
Certain percentage. Yeah.
trade partners.
That's great information. Do you have any upcoming projects that you guys are really excited about, that maybe something new that's, normally outside of your wheelhouse?
I don't know if there's anything bigger. We're doing our first Raising Cane's, which is
Oh, okay.
is a great addition to our clientele. Obviously we're doing the Dutch brothers. They're on a big push to open a lot of stores in the Houston market, and they're both using modular buildings, prefab buildings that they bring in, and then we do just the site work and the infrastructure. That's kind of exciting because I think that's going to be the future of construction in 15 to 20 years. So it's kind of fun to dabble in that a little bit.
Yeah, kind of be on the forefront of that.
We do work with a restaurant called Mendocino Farms. They're based out of California. So we're also going to be doing some new
Rachel's Mediterranean Grill.
it's Mediterranean.
Okay.
We're building their first Rachel's in Dallas, and we'll be talking to them about expanding in more areas. And it's going to be great in Texas. It's really going to take off.
Yeah,
So
it's
we're
a
excited.
great concept. It's a very similar concept to what you'd see at a Chipotle,
Okay.
where you walk in and
Uh-huh.
and the food is all the recipes are from family recipes from their mother. So
Oh, wow.
and we can say firsthand it was pretty
It's
good.
pretty good.
Tastes pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
You
That's
don't leave
awesome.
you don't leave there hungry, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
we're kind of coming to the end, and I know there's a really exciting process that y'all use that you guys really like to promote. And so tell me about this Build Better Lean Building initiative that you guys use.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, your typical construction projects, everybody's working in a silo. You have the owner in a silo, you have an architect, an engineer in silos, the GC is in a silo, and then you have all your subs in their own little silos. And nobody's talking, nobody's communicating. And so the basis of lean building is to break down those silos and get everybody talking and communicating and making commitments as a group and not individually apart from each other. Because if you don't have collaboration, then you won't know if that commitment that you're making is going to be held up by the guy right before you.
Right.
So when you get them all in the same room, which is difficult. So now we use Zoom calls versus on-site meetings
sometimes.
to implement those meetings. But focuses on eliminating waste on a project,
Okay.
not having material delivered too early, making sure you have the right amount of workers. Sometimes you can have too many workers, and you're wasting labor. You don't want to set simple little things like setting porta cans at a certain spot on the site where people aren't walking a long ways to get there and wasting time with that. Making sure that
Okay.
lumber and material is staged in the right locations. That's a big part of it. We're excited. We're kind of on a pilot program with Bosch Tools, which is crazy, but they've developed what they call the Refine My Site, which is a lean building scheduling. So we're really excited about that because it's an electronic scheduling where you have day cards, you have lean scheduling that you can score like a 2-week look ahead or a 3-week look ahead. And so you have a work plan, 1-week work plan, and you'll score which commitments were made and which ones weren't. And then there's various reasons why it wasn't made. So we can start tracking that going forward.
Well, once again, it sounds like you guys are ahead of the learning curve, and that sounds awesome. So, well,
Yeah.
Tim and Jeanette, I just really appreciate your time today and